They're marking the tomb to see which place he's laid because they want to come back and give Jesus a proper burial. They put perfumes, oils, spices on the body. This is a rush moment, so they're having to get him into the grave before Sabbath starts. Sabbath starts at sundown. This is the Passover Sabbath of all Sabbaths. An earthquake has happened. The sun is blotted out. It's all gray, and they're traumatized. They can see that Jesus is not getting a proper burial, and so they want to come back and do that. The first opportunity they're going to be able to do that, which is after Sabbath is over, which would be sun up Sunday morning. They're not expecting him to rise from the dead. They're expecting to find a body there on Sunday. That's why they mark the tomb. That's why they want to give him perfumes and spices, and they're about to prepare all of those because they expect a dead guy to stay dead. The dream is over. We thought he was God, but he's not God. And so we want to at least give him a proper burial on Sunday. So these women see all this take place, and they're just distraught because they weren't able to give Jesus a proper burial. Then he went home, verse 56, they went home, prepared spices and perfumes, but they rested on the Sabbath in obedience to the commandment. So this is Passover Sabbath. The commandment said don't do anything on the Sabbath. Nobody's able to do anything on Saturday until sunup on Sunday. Verse 1. Chapter 24, verse 1. On the first day of the week, very early in the morning, this little Greek phrase indicates that as soon as they saw the sun coming up, boom, they were gone. All right? The women took spices that they had prepared to the tomb, and they were going to embalm the body. Now, I can't overstate this enough, so I'm going to state it one more time. Why are they taking perfumes and spices to the tomb? You wouldn't do that if you're expecting a resurrection. You wouldn't do that unless you expected him to stay dead. No one's expecting a resurrection. Can you write in the chat, they're not expecting a resurrection. Neither are the disciples. We'll talk about them in just a minute. Their dream is dead. This Messiah that we thought was a Messiah, I don't know how he pulled off those miracles. I never heard anybody teach like he was able to teach. We need to keep waiting for the next Messiah because there's no way that our king would be allowed to die. The dream was dead. Verse 1, very early in the morning, they come to the tomb. They took the spices they had prepared. Verse 2, they found the stone rolled away from the tomb. Now, away is a very important word. Type away in the chat for me, okay? They found the stone rolled away from the tomb. The way that these tombs were cut, it was made so that they had this big stone disc, and they would roll down in this trench. They'd be up on a trench. It was elevated by about a foot or so. And then we have plenty of this in archaeology. We dig these up all over the place from the first century. They would roll it down, and it would fall down into this trench, okay? It was a small little trench, but it kept the rock in place. In order for it to be rolled out, it would have to go up an incline, so it was much harder to open them after they were closed. It doesn't say that it was rolled up into the trench. In fact, this word away says that it wasn't even on the tomb. The disc, the rock disc was rolled away from the tomb. Now that's so curious. They're shocked. And so it's rolled away from the tomb. Verse 3, but when they entered, they did not find the body of the Lord Jesus. While they were wondering about this, notice that they're wondering about this. They don't conclude instantly, Jesus rose from the dead. It says that they stood there in amazement and they're wondering to themselves. See, no one says, oh my goodness, it's a resurrection. That's what he said he was going to do. They're not expecting a resurrection. These are devoted followers of Jesus. This is Joanna, who gave a lot to the cause. This is Mary Magdalene, who was like one of his first followers. This is Mary, the mother of Jesus. Even Mary, the mother of Jesus, we learn later she was also a part of this crowd. She doesn't say, oh, Jesus rose from the dead. They're wondering to themselves, and it says, suddenly 2 men in clothes that gleamed like lightning stood beside them. Verse 5, in their fright, the women bowed down with their faces to the ground. But the men said to them, why do you look for the living among the dead? It's a good question. Why do you look for the living among the dead? To which these are intelligent women. I think they would have answered, because we expected a dead guy to stay dead, because that's what dead people do. okay? Like they're not thinking about what he had said at this point. They're shocked. See, it's important that you remember they weren't expecting a resurrection. In fact, they don't even, when they're writing it later, make themselves out to be like heroes. In fact, when they're writing this later, they don't make themselves out to be the heroes. Oh, we expected a resurrection all along. No, we're wondering to ourselves, even at this point. And at this point, they say, that the two men, he is not here. He has risen. Type in the chat, he is not here. He has risen. Why are you looking for the living among the dead? Remember how he told you the Son of Man must be delivered over to the hands of sinners, be crucified, and on the third day raise again? Verse 8, and it says, then, and only then, at this point, it dawns on them, oh, and it says, then they remembered his words. So now they've dropped their spices and oils, and they're like, oh my goodness, Jesus has risen from the dead. Like this is a category I was not expecting. And so they do what you and I would have done, and they run back into town, and they go and they find the disciples. Now, where are the disciples? Were they waiting outside the tomb on the third day? Because he said he was going to rise on the third day. Were they waiting for a resurrection? The heroes of the faith? No, what are they doing? They're back in the town hiding because they got a real dilemma. If they can kill Jesus, they can kill us. You know, he had all the power. He could calm storms. And if like God allowed him to die, then I guess God would allow us to die as well. And if they wanted to kill Jesus, he's the leader of the whole movement. They'll want to kill the second ones in charge. And we were known, our faces were associated with him all over Galilee and Judea and everywhere, that we were followers of Jesus. They're going to want to kill us too. So they're scared to death. They're not looking for a resurrection. They're not full of faith. When they came back from the tomb, they told all of these things to the 11 and to the others. We have 11 now because Judas is gone. Judas has hung himself, so the 12 have been down to 11. Verse 10. It was Mary Magdalene, talk about detail, by the way, Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the others with them who told this to the apostles. Now, if you're wanting to make these guys look good and you're wanting to write a history that would then give them clout or power or even credibility to lead the church movement after Jesus is found to rise from the dead, okay, you want to make these guys look good. You want to make them look like they knew it all along and they were full of faith all along. I mean, this is Peter upon which you're going to build your church, the rock upon which, these are the stallions of the faith that you name your kids after, right? This is Andrew of Andrew. Some of you are named Matthew after Matthew. These are the stallions of the church movement. So these women come back and say, he is risen, he is risen, he is risen. And what is their response? Verse 11, look at this. You have to read this to believe it. It says, but they did not believe the women. After all this, they did not believe the women. What is this you say? Why? Because they weren't expecting a resurrection. If they can kill him, they can kill us. We're scared. We saw him buried. We saw him fully dead, right? He didn't even flinch when the spear hit into the chest, okay? We know he was all dead before he was taken off. We saw him buried. And what is this you say, women? Because verse 11, their words seem to them like nonsense. No heroes here, right? No men of great faith here, doubters even. No saints who are ready to take on the world with a message of Jesus, right? And turn the world upside down. But Peter, verse 12. Peter, who was with them, who was scared to death, who had actually already denied him 3 times the night that he died, even one time to a little girl. Oh, I never knew him, right? Scared to death. Peter, huddled up with the rest of them, got up and ran to the tomb. And bending over, so he's at the tomb now, bending over, saw the strips of linen laying by themselves. And he went away. What does it say? Does it say he concluded that he rose from the dead? No. He's still in amazement, wondering to himself what had happened here. You say, well, maybe the disciples didn't steal the body, but somebody with an interest wanted to steal the body. He's like, I see strips of linen here. If you're on a heist, right, and you're stealing something that's of value, you get past the Roman guard and you get past the rock, right? We're going to move the rock away from the tomb. At the very least, you're in a rush state. You might even be bloodied after beating up on the Roman guard, right? And getting past the Roman guard. You go in and you grab the body and you're rushing out.